everyone, welcome to the Hockey Hub. Sophia and Kasey here with you. Monday, September 1st. Girl, fall isn't officially here, but it's hockey season's here. I don't really care. I don't care that it's still a couple weeks away from training camp. It's September. That means hockey season is upon us, and we've got a show full of hockey news, not just related to the Boston Bruins. Kasey, we're going to have Kevin Dupont of the Boston Globe come on, and he's one of my favorites to mingle with the Bruins media, but he gets his stories. You know, he's a really, really good journalist, and he's got some good articles that have come out of the Boston Bruins and what to expect. So we're going to kind of bug him about that. And we've got some new segments that I think, did you kind of come up with? Can you tell us about this tape to tape or pass and shoot?
A little bit. Tape to tape, we get to kind of go around the NHL as a whole, all of the big things that are being talked about or chirped about, whatever the case may be. But I like some of the subjects that we have in there. They're pretty fun. Also, when it comes to shoot or pass, that's just kind of like do's or don'ts in our personal opinion when it comes to hockey. But tape to tape, I'm excited for us to get into that one. We've got some key content popping out.
Yeah, so basically, as I said, we're Bruins focused, but we're going to go league-wide with a couple stories, including viral moment with Mitch Marner and Toronto Maple Leafs fans, which I'm going to be super passionate about to talk about because you know that's where I spend a lot of my time covering hockey. But we're going over and around the league, and like I said, Kevin Dupont is going to join us. Kasey, before we get into it, like I said, fall is coming up. You haven't spent a fall in New England because you came here in Jan, right? From Tampa?
Yep.
Okay, what's on your bucket list here? Very, like, fall in New England is the place to be. This is like the stereotype around the world. You got to be in New England, the leaves, the cider, the donuts, whatever. What's on your bucket list?
You nailed one of them. It's the cider. So I heard that I have to get out to Vermont before the hockey season officially takes off. So I'm going to make sure that I suss that out. And then the other thing is just kind of like, they said that there's good hiking spots is the further north you go between Maine and New Hampshire. So I'll see if I can get one of those thrown on the list. But the cider is the thing I'm most excited about because we definitely don't have anything close to that in Florida. Like I was told last year I got to go apple picking and stuff. I was in Jersey at the time and I never made it out anywhere. So Vermont is very much on my list of what I've been told. Got to make time for it. Got to get out there. And I'm thinking my mom's going to try to come up to join me for that adventure. But speaking of fall, I saw two guys on a bike this morning, just probably doing their morning commute, wearing Bruins sweaters because it's chilly enough to be in them. And that's something else that I haven't seen. Like we don't see hockey sweaters broken out in Florida quite yet. They wait very much until season is full swing.
Well, okay, so one of the best things when I first moved here, but I did get this in Toronto because the Toronto Maple Leafs were like, people were crazy about them, but all year round you're seeing hats, t-shirts, jerseys, whatever. And I definitely don't take that for granted here, where it's in the summer and someone's on a beach and they got a Bruins hat or something on their car that's Bruins related, like on the bumper sticker or whatever it is. You're just constantly seeing Bees gear, and then it starts coming out a lot more as you need more clothing because it's getting colder.
Yeah.
But that's something that's super cool. And so I was going to ask, in Tampa, when you were, when you're going through fall, like, is there even an attempt to be fall-y and cute, or is it just like not a thing because you have palm trees everywhere and they're not changing color?
I know, and it's still super hot. My sister was like, oh, I think we're getting a fall breeze at 78 this morning and in the high of like 98. And I was like, no, Naomi, you're not. Our attempt at fall is very much overdoing the pumpkin spice stuff, so getting the coffee and getting it hot and pretending like you're not dying drinking that at 100 degrees. And then it's just changing the palettes, so you just see more dark colors. People do buy into making sure that they're wearing blacks and browns and maroons and all of that, but you're sweating up until November.
Okay, well, I have a couple more tips for you, and then we'll start getting into a little bit of, we're going to talk about captain's practice. That's coming up. For the Bees, a couple days this week, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m., they're holding captain's practice. So Kasey and I are going to talk about that. And like I said, we're going to have Kevin Dupont a little later on the show. But first, before we wrap up the fall thing, leaf peeping, which I find such a weird term, leaf peeping, but it is a term. I just call it looking at leaves.
I was like, what is this?
So you just go pretty much anywhere in New England, but if you drive to Vermont or close to Vermont or in Maine or New Hampshire where there are a lot of trees and hills, the colors are insane, like the yellow, reds. Like you've seen the pictures, right?
Yeah, like the almost like maroon burgundy trees and leaves. Haven't really seen that in person quite yet.
Okay, that's going to blow your mind. It's so beautiful. Even in the Nesson parking lot, actually. I like parking under the trees because they cover my car and it doesn't get too hot in the sun. Even they're starting to turn orange and yellow, and it's so beautiful. So you're going to love that. Leaf peeping has to be on your list. Yeah, maybe like picking a pumpkin. Have you ever done that at a pumpkin patch?
Not from a proper patch.
Okay, so
No.
pumpkin patch picking, carving. Cider, yes, but apple picking, which you said was on the list, and like
Yeah.
cider donuts. You got to get a couple cider donuts.
Cider donuts. Haven't heard that one yet. Is that going to be where I get cider, or is that somewhere else I have to go pick?
It'll have it all, and
Okay.
yes, you'll have it all, and you'll probably have some leaves and trees there too, so you can do it all in one shot. Maybe I'll take you. Maybe we can do something and do that together.
That's what we do. That's the initiation to New England is cider and apple picking with Sophia.
And hockey.
Love it. And the hockey.
Okay, so speaking of which, let's get into it. We don't have Kevin yet, but wanted to talk about kind of the storylines that we're going to be bringing up with him. He wrote a couple great articles. One a few weeks ago, that's why we wanted to have him on the show, where he addressed Hampus Lindholm and his plans, not plans, I guess, how he spent his summer recovering from injury, his mental state, where he's at, what he expects of himself in the season. We're going to get Kevin to kind of talk about that since he wrote the article, but that's definitely one of the big storylines with the Bruins that we have been wondering about. Not just him, but players who underperformed, whether it was due to injury like him and Charlie McAvoy, or whether it was due to other reasons, and are they going to step up? So we'll get his take on Hampus's mindset. He also talked to John Beecher. Johnny Beecher signed for a 1-year, $900,000 contract. I'm sure Johnny Beecher wanted more than 1 year. He probably wanted a couple and maybe a little bit more money, but he didn't exactly earn it. So he's got to go out and earn that. And he went one-on-one with him. Got to talk to him about his mindset. So I kind of want to dive into that because Hampus Lindholm and John Beecher have completely different roles, literally, but also in terms of just expectation and payroll and all that. But similar storylines, right? Like, are you going to make this your year? Like, have you prepared? What's your mindset at? Et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to get his thoughts on that. And then captain's practice is happening, like I said, with the Bruins a couple days this week, Tuesday and Thursday. I'll be going to that. But Kasey, I know you've been doing the show with me every week. They don't have a captain. So we kind of got to just see who's going to run it. From what I understand, and I definitely want Kevin to confirm or deny, but from what I understand, this is a practice that the players run. So there are no coaches allowed on the ice. They kind of do their thing. And I'm assuming it's less about, X's and O's and more about just like work ethic, what we expect of them, what the captains or leaders expect of the players in terms of work ethic, in terms of culture, all that. But actually, we have Kevin. He's ready to go. So instead of me blabbing about what I think captain's practice entails, because he's covered way many more than I have, Kevin Dupont, thank you so much for joining us and being on our show with me and Kasey.
Pleasure to be with you guys. I hope you're having a great holiday weekend.
We are, I think. Are you, by the way, I texted you to be on. Thank you for the time. Are you away with the family, or are you at home getting ready for captain's practice tomorrow?
No, well, right here at home, waiting for that captain's practice. So,
Okay.
as much as I enjoy it, I do hate to see the summer end.
Yeah, no, same. We were just talking about fall, and Kasey's from Tampa, but has a great hockey background covering the Lightning. But this is her first New England fall, so I've set her all up for that. I won't get you to do that. I was just talking about captain's practice. I missed it last year. I don't think I've covered it that much. I'm actually usually in Toronto wrapping up my summer. So you're the expert. Tell us what captain's practice is, and what the players are really getting out of it, and who do you expect to show up this year?
Well, it's a reintroduction for them, of course. They've been away, and now a good number of them, this has varied over the years too, a good number of them do stick around Boston, so that's a little different. But it's always been, they come back from whatever provinces in Canada or from Europe, and they start in slowly. But many of them have already been skating. As you all know, Sophia, it's not like the old days when players just went home to their farms or respective off-season jobs and really didn't stay in shape. So they come in, they've skated for a number of weeks, if not months. They're typically in great shape. There's no coaches involved. It's just the players, thus the captain's practice. And from our perspective, media perspective, it's very much the same. Report to the fourth floor press box in Brighton, watch what goes on for 35, 45 minutes, an hour, and then they open up the room. The only thing missing is coaches, because that's not allowed under the CBA until the rookies start to report. I think that's the 10th. That's only next week. So it's leisurely. Players aren't necessarily running out the door, at least until they see us in the media. and I find it's a nice base. That said, I don't have to be there every day. There's only a couple this week that the media is allowed into. But I'd say the tone of it is relaxed, leisurely, and you see more guys starting to show up. I think when I talked to Hampus, I think he told me he'll arrive September 4. So that would be the day that, technically he would miss that second captain's practice this week, but I'm sure they'll have some on the weekend.
While you mention it being more of a relaxed atmosphere, would it be too much to say that maybe media can gauge where the culture of this team is starting to kind of mold and trend? Because I know that's a big question heading into the season with all of the changes that the Bruins roster has kind of taken on over the offseason.
It's a great question, Kasey. I don't think that gets resolved here. They have yet to pick a captain. That's a big part of the culture. How big a piece of the culture, that often depends on who the captain is. Certainly we saw that. They needed a captain. They needed someone to set a tone when almost 20 years ago now when Zdeno Chara came here and picked up as a free agent and picked up immediately as the captain. They've had, good captains since, and a great captain in Bergeron, a very good captain in Marchand. I thought that we were going to see more from him, but we ended up trading him, so we don't get to gauge exactly what his, if you will, his legacy piece is in terms of being a captain. But I think that's going to be a story, Kasey, that really evolves here and probably evolves for a matter of weeks to months. Again, not knowing who they're going to pick as the captain. That's generally the pick of the coach and the general manager and the team president. So that's sort of a three-headed decision. And sometimes they do go to the players, and they either go to them informally. Sometimes I've actually seen situations, been a long time now, but seen situations where they consult directly with the rank and file. If not indirectly, then a form of a vote that's not binding typically. So it's interesting. It is important. And, if you have a goaltender who stops the puck, that's a culture in itself.
We can definitely get into that. I want to deep dive a little bit, or we will also deep dive into your article with Hampus Lindholm, but I would like to just have one follow-up on that. So they haven't named a captain, as you said. I also think it's going to take weeks to months. Right now, the storyline, they're going to go with, a couple of alternates, and it's going to be leadership by committee. That's something they were even saying last season. Anyone else other than Charlie McAvoy and David Pastrnak? We have Lindholm on the list. Nikita Zadorov's been thrown around. I really liked Morgan Geekie. As you know, Kevin, I came a little later in the season. Yes, he had a great season on the ice. So then, because he was scoring these goals, these great passes, he was expected to talk a lot more. And because he was expected to talk a lot more, and he did, that's when I really got to know his personality. And I find him very grounded, hardworking, humble, all the things that when I look at him, I'm like, I would follow this man. I would let this man lead. Do you throw him in the ring? Maybe not for the seat, but at least for an alternate.
A great observation, Sophia. I would agree with you. I've never spoken to him about it. I don't know if he'd like it. Some guys don't want it. They don't want it for a number of reasons. The position itself, sometimes it's and this isn't a lot, but there's often the communication with the Players Association, that union representative thing. Some players just don't want that. It just reminds them too much of school. It reminds them too much of homework. So I don't know. I think you got to find out individually whether they like that. Now, whether they have the DNA for it, often it's those who are making the decision have a better handle than the person himself, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yes. That they sense he's ready for it. Is Charlie McAvoy ready for it? Some people think not. I think Charlie would be a good captain. I think perhaps in Charlie's case, it would grow his game too. Some guys are overburdened by it. It doesn't help their game. I think Charlie's the type of, this is just a guesswork. My guess is as good as anybody else's, I guess. But I think he might kind of seize the opportunity and view his game differently, view his position differently, all of that. So there is a trick to it. Whether they end up with making the right decision, who knows? But I generally think Neely and Sweeney, and I just haven't worked with Sturm in this context. I think Sweeney and Neely have a very good pulse on that, and I think they'll end up making a good decision.
Sticking with McAvoy for a minute, obviously I just got here, but I would assume that when you're kind of trying to find yourself as a leader for a team and it comes to you very new in the middle of the season, adversity, chaos, and you don't have like your counterpart that really just helps you play your best game, being Hampus Lindholm in the mix, do you feel like there's a reasonable expectation on Charlie McAvoy to take the next step this upcoming season, having the confidence of hopefully having a more cemented team around him so that he can have that focal point and it doesn't come off as, distracting or just not being able to see his best version of himself?
You're talking strictly about his game. All right.
Yeah.
Is that your question, Casey? Yeah, I think that said, I've been expecting to see that sort of growth ring in Charlie's game for the last 2 or 3 years. Which is not to denigrate his game, but I've expected more, especially as a power play point guy, power play quarterback guy. He has all the tools. He likes to fashion himself. That's not fair to him. He's really held up Drew Doughty as his guy, the game he wanted to evolve, and he hasn't evolved to that. He can do some things better. I think he's quicker in open ice. More mobile, but and again, just because a guy holds up someone else as where he wants to get to doesn't mean that's the measure of success or failure. But I think I'm among the many who's expected more out of Charlie. They put him in they put him in that number one franchise defenseman role early, paid him well. I think slightly ahead of time, but again, there's a million parts of those decisions too, and I think he's come in slightly under. Now, last year you kind of do have to, because as you talked about, the injury and the infection, and he has had. This isn't the first time he's had problems with a shoulder, so this is going to be a year he has to come back strong. They'll be looking for him to come back really strong out of the gate, and I think that factored in. Them ultimately at the end shutting him down with whatever it was. I tend to lose track of timelines, but my sense is that those last 2 to 3 weeks, and he has subsequently said he felt he was ready to come back. But I think it was prudent to hold him out. The season was ostensibly over, and hope that he can come out and really come out supercharged, because he's one of their handful of key players. And this is a year, especially because of what happened last season, they've got to come out strong.
And that's actually kind of what you touched about with Hampus Lindholm in your article. So we'll finally get to that, because it was a great read for those of you who haven't read it. Kevin Dupont a couple weeks ago kind of went one-on-one with Hampus. He's home. He was home back in Sweden, and you guys had a nice chat. And he talked about his expectations for the season, where he wants to pick up where he left off. And we all know he played, I think it was 17 games only, right? So just a handful of games, and then missed the rest of the season. So not easy to pick up where you left off almost when you've had almost a year off. But what was your, you made his energy and his vibe very clear in your writing, but he seemed relaxed, comfortable, and confident. Is that fair to say?
Very fair to say. Yeah, and I think he's you've dealt with him enough, Sophia, to know he's a very nice guy, and not to lump all Swedes together, but the Swedes generally are very nice, and he's sort of kind of in that. Now I will stereotype central casting, big Swedish handsome guy, right? He's successful. He has played well. He was off to a good start last year. Not great. He'd had a dip the year before from his high numbers, so I think there was some of that. You got to prove it again, that they all have to do every year. But it was a good vibe. He was skating with Rogla, the team he had played with as a kid. So he was getting in some real reps with guys who were, their season starts earlier. So he was invigorated by that. I will say that story, and I went back, as I often do, read it again after people begin commenting. There were a number of Bruins fans who were put off by the fact that he was so excited that by their reading of this article, and you never know how people are going to read things. Their reading of the article was that this is a guy who sounds more intrigued about making the Swedish Olympic team than he's excited about coming back to Boston. I certainly didn't get that sense from talking to him. I looked at it again. I didn't think I conveyed it, but if a number of people read it that way, you do have to wonder. So I think he's equally excited about both. I don't think it's extraordinary for these players, especially since it's been so long since the best of the players have been able to play in this best-on-best Olympic tournament, that they get excited about that, and that can be a prevailing conversation. And I think that's going to be a conversation here, especially up until the teams are named in late December or very start of January. So I would say to the consumers, readers, watchers, everybody out there, get used to that, because it's an exciting year for them and in that context. And I think it's also an exciting year for the fans. But back to your central question, Sophia, because I've rambled like an old man does. He, by his telling, he's fit and he's excited and all of that. I will say, I think there's always a caveat emptor when dealing with players coming back from serious knee injuries. And in his case, it was a fractured kneecap that got put back together surgically. The reason he got delayed and didn't come back is because, by his telling, one of the screws wasn't necessarily infected, but there was an aggravation around one of the screws. They had to go in and clean that up. I've seen that over the years at different injuries. That's can be quite common, and typically is bad luck. So he got both. He got some bad luck and bad luck within. So you kind of have to put him in that Charlie category of, from a team perspective, they have to hope that the extra time to heal and everything really has him come back shot out of a cannon. Knees can be precarious. We saw that with Kevin Miller. Kevin Miller fractured his kneecap, came back, really couldn't play again. It was disheartening.
Kind of circling back to another point that you made, because I'd argue you can't have one without the other in terms of being excited for the season with hopes to play on the Olympic roster and vice versa. So, I mean, in your time covering the game, haven't we seen this wanting to honor your country, wanting to represent your country? Haven't we seen that as an energizer for them to have a better season? Because now he's coming back from this injury that you've notably painted as a tough one to come back from. Kind of having his eye on a different prize, I think, is probably a good gear to have versus any sort of distraction that fans may have been concerned about.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd agree, Kasey, 100%. I think it's lack of a better word, it brings out the kid in them, and I think it varies from nation to nation, but it's similar. I mean, the Swedes have their pride for the Three Crowns. The Czechs get very invested. And especially, and it's not going to, at least as we speak today, it's not going to happen, but especially when the Russians are in it, there's some culturally, there's some really severe dislike for both sides, and frankly, more on the Czech side for the Russians for the dislike. So it crosses not just age groups and ego and kids who have grown into being men, national pride sometimes in those cases wrapped around war and invasion. So yeah, I think if, unless you're talking about a player who's a real box of rocks, and there's not many of those, at least not anymore, it appeals to them on so many levels and triggers so many motivation points. I see that as a good thing. I suppose there might be, and I say this not thinking of anybody, I haven't seen it. Maybe it can be too daunting for some guys, and they get too wrapped up in it. I haven't seen that. I will say this on a 35,000 foot level. There's no game like it for physical commitment, mental commitment, for the duration that they have to be engaged in playing for their team, doing it physically, doing it mentally, dealing with the psychological issues of the daily grind. Baseball has its demands too. I covered baseball for years, early in my career. The grind in baseball is incredible from the start of spring training, if they make it to the World Series. That to me is more psychological and mental, because it is every day. The hockey is all of that. They're not playing every day, but they're practicing every day. They're playing every other day. And to be in it and fully committed, and it is, as I say, no sport like it. Football's more violent, but far fewer games. Basketball's more physical than people think, but doesn't carry the danger factor that hockey does. It doesn't carry the serious injury quotient that hockey does. So it is one tough sport, demanding sport. And again, old man rambling. When I get off on these tangents, ladies, feel free to stop me. So.
Well, no, they're very entertaining. And I actually just wanted to comment on that, a bit of a funny story, but I only covered one full season with the Boston Bruins in terms of doing their travel. And so I was expected to be at every practice. It was my first year, expected to be at every practice, every morning skate, every game, and even the national schedule that at the time NBC took, we still had a NESN presence. So did it for one season. And as you know, NESN gets to go on the team plane. And I remember near the end of the season, before the postseason, I was just complaining out loud about being so tired. And Brandon Carlo, who is very sweet, very lovely, kind of looked at me and he was like, "You're tired?" And I was like, "Okay, sorry." No, I'm not getting beat up every night. And it's exhausting, yes. The travel, the what hotel room you're waking up in, time zones. But then, like you said, the physicality on top of that, of taking checks, making checks, blocking pucks, it's just insane. It's insane. And my respect for all athletes is very high, but for hockey players, especially high. Kevin, I like to ramble too. We've talked, we're both talkers, but we do have a commercial break we have to sneak in. So we're going to sneak that in right now. We're going to have you on the other side. Guys, we're going to be back with Kevin Dupont of the Boston Globe right after this. Welcome back to the Hockey Hub. Sophia, Kasey, and Kevin Dupont joining us at the Boston Globe for Monday's episode. Kevin, as you guys know, covering the Boston Bruins, wrote many great articles over the summer, but we're talking about the recent ones. We've addressed the one with Hampus Lindholm. Let's get into Johnny Beecher and the article and the a phone call that you had with him, Kev, but about how this is the year for him to go out and earn it. I personally was surprised that he was invited back. But yeah, like your conversation with him, how that went, and give us the insight that you gave in your article about what Johnny Beecher's attitude is heading into this season.
Most of what we do in the summer are phoners, which I'd prefer not to do. It was not a sit down; it was a stand up, because he was doing a charity thing over at the Garden for the Salvation Army, a real nice event that the Bruins have staged now for a number of years, bringing in kids from around the city, many of whom have never had the opportunity to be in the building, because it's just not within their, for many of them, not within their fiscal range. So they get to come in and they give them all sorts of goodies, and it's a Bruins Salvation Army thing that works really, really nicely. Anyway, I'm with you, Sophia. I can't say I was gobsmacked that they brought him back, Johnny Beecher, but given what his production has been as a pro, it would not have surprised me if they just let him go as a free agent. It would also not surprise me that another team picked him up quickly, just for who he is. He's a nice kid. Not that nice goes far in the NHL necessarily, but he's a nice kid. He's got real legs, real speed, and he's got an academic IQ. Obviously, he went to Michigan, also known as the BU of the Midwest, as we all know, and obviously his game hasn't translated yet at the NHL level, and maybe what he's gravitating toward here is, and it's not a bad thing to gravitate to, but a solid component in the bottom six, and his sort of maraschino cherry there is that he's a good face-off man, and that's important. It's important top to bottom for your centerman. He can do that. He's done that well. He's proven that. And what we all want to see for every forward who makes the NHL is that they also contribute legitimately, consistently on offense, and he hasn't done that. So I'm intrigued first and foremost for around Johnny Beecher, in that they have a new coach. And maybe it wouldn't be the first time by any means that a guy comes in, a new coach gives a guy a different look, approaches him a different way in terms of motivation. And finally, to use my mother's old expression, the penny finally drops. And maybe that will be the case for Johnny Beecher. There is that chance. There are guys you watch in Johnny Beecher's situation. They don't have size, they don't have speed, they really don't have much more than gumption, and that can be enough. So you never know what the ingredient is. He's got enough ingredients that I do see the practicality in bringing him back. It's not like we've looked at it, and certainly I haven't looked at him for these couple of years and thought, this guy is just an ECHL guy in a different uniform. Right. Hasn't felt that way to me. I think he's got potential for major league skill. It's a matter of funneling it. Sometimes it's a guy just having to believe it. And that I've questioned sometimes, whether he actually believes he's top six material. And maybe that will be, who knows? I can't speak for Marco. I can't speak for any coach, but I think maybe that's the approach here that Marco will say, Johnny, you've got all of it. It's up to you now. We believe in you. Let's see it.
Good point on bringing Marco into the conversation, because he's been notarized as the kind of coach that spots and emphasizes potential out of all sorts of players. And I feel like that was a big theme heading into the offseason, seeing as how some of the pickups, like Tanner Jeannot and Mikey Eyssimont, had some question marks by it. But these are guys who have had proven, track records to contribute to a roster previously. So my biggest question is what you make of this bottom six, because I had a chance to cover Tanner and Eyssimont back in Tampa Bay, seeing a lot of potential out of them, but it feels like it's more competitive for this bottom six, or oversaturated bottom six, heading into this season. How can they kind of drive this team as guys who are kind of looked at as under the radar?
I would agree. They've got a lot of candidates down there. These are two guys. They don't excite me. And that's okay. Let's see. They don't excite me. What excites you? Is it more than anything? I'm looking at this through the fan prism. What excites fans is guys who can score, guys who can really drive an offense and be complementary pieces to a successful offense. And those are typically defined as, as you know, Casey, that's defined by top six and how much time, and are they out on the power play? At least on second unit, all of that. I don't know what they're, I did see Jeannot, saw him put a big lick on Jacob Zaboral that essentially ended Jacob's NHL career. So what they wanted, it is my interpretation of what Sweeney wanted, Neely, was more jam, more energy, more shift-to-shift nastiness, and I think they can get that out of both of those. I think of Jeannot more in that context than Eyssimont, personally, but I could be surprised. Those will be two really interesting stories to see evolve, and I think this is going to be, because I think we all have questions about how consistent the top six can be here. I think we also have we also might end up with a debate on who is in the top six. So maybe both of these guys will see, something. They've brought me in for this, but I know I'm better than that. And the classic case of this is Geekie. Geekie was brought in here, however many years ago now. Well, 2 years ago. He was brought in to be third and fourth line center, and looked at as a $2 million a year bottom six support player with some versatility, the ability to go over on the wing. And look what he did. He played himself into top line minutes, 30 goals, and parlayed that into an extremely good contract. So there's upside here. Both these guys, I think, are a little longer in the tooth in terms of what they've fashioned so far in their careers than what we had seen from Geekie. I was amazed Seattle let him go, Geekie, and rented him a free agent. That's how the Bruins got him. And I think there's some parallel there in what we were talking about before in Beecher. I think those are hard decisions for general managers because they've wanted more, they've wanted to see more. Especially, this wasn't true with Geekie in Seattle, but with the case here, with Beecher here, Beecher being drafted by the Bruins. Often teams draft a guy, they give him second, third, and fourth chances. This is a kid who was drafted by Carolina originally, Geekie. So we'll see what their upside is, and we'll see what their eagerness is to try to move up the lineup.
I can say AC Mont's got a bit of a pit bull in him. He likes to take on guys twice his size fearlessly, so hopefully that'll play out for the season for the Bruins.
Yeah, good, and boy, they need it. They need it. and as you know, Kasey, Sophia too, you've got to pick your points with that. You can have all of that jam and feistiness if you're applying it at the very wrong moment, and you do that 2 or 3 times over 2 or 3 weeks, you're out of the lineup. So you got to be really smart about where you apply it.
Kevin, we've covered so many potential, or they are storylines, but question marks about leadership, what kind of coach Marco Sturm is going to be. Is he going to get the best out of these guys that are in contract years or trying to prove themselves? Haven't really touched about goaltending, and there are so many other storylines heading into this training camp with the turnover. So our final question to you, because we do have to let you go, is really and I know you always have more than one, but what couple of storylines are you most looking forward to kind of getting answers to as training camp begins?
Well, the 2 biggest ones in my mind, Sophia, are the goaltending and the power play. That's where did the season rise and fall last year? Around the goaltending and around the power play. I think if they'd had 10 more power play goals, this is easy, stupid math, and who's better than an easy, stupid person to apply it? But 10 power play goals last year at the right time, they might have been in the playoffs. But you can't go 0 for October or 0 for November on the power play and expect to be a legitimately contending team. And they had some dreadful dry spots with that power play. So, they identified a first line at the end. That's great. They've got a new coach in Spot here that is going to run the power play. We'll see what that is. But that to me, and at least when you're trying to fix the power play, you've got ostensibly 18 parts that you can help fix it, right? You've got 6 defensemen, 12 forwards. You can play with the mix. They didn't do enough of that last year. They haven't done enough of that, I think, for a long time here. I thought along the way, Matt Grzelcyk was, because Charlie struggled on that as the QB1 on the power play. I would have moved Grzelcyk into that because Grzelcyk can run a power play. I saw him do it at BU, and I saw him do it at times here. I would have given him more. Anyway, we need more rope. There's more options. They can't be worse than they were last year.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Save that one and clip it to the fridge, but they can't be worse. And then, of course, goaltending, and Swayman had by the standard he set early in his career, he had a very poor year. So I think he'll come back. No contract issue. He comes back. He's fit. He's serious about it. I do believe he's a franchise goaltender. So I feel good about that. I don't see it's going to be the mess that it was last year.
I mean, I'm so excited. I've been saying on this show all along that, yes, it was a weird turnover. Yes, it was a weird year. But as journalists, as people who like asking questions for a living, it's very exciting for us to ask those questions and get those answers. I'll see you tomorrow at Captain's Practice. Kevin, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. Kevin Dupont of the Boston Globe joining us. Check out all his articles. He's got the best insight for the Boston Bruins. Thanks again, Kev.
It's my pleasure. Good to see you again, Sophia. And Kasey, best of luck with the new gig.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Welcome back to the Hockey Hub. We have a new segment. Kasey made it up, so if it's not good, blame her. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, not entirely.
No.
Pellerin came up with the name. Concept was agreeable. I'll take responsibility.
Wait, Pellerin's involved?
He came up with tape to tape.
I'm calling
We couldn't think of like the fun name, and that fit perfectly. So
I do nothing on the show. Apparently, I don't come with any ideas. I just do what I'm told.
no, you weren't here.
I'm here. I'm getting paid to be here. I'm here. No, tape to tape. I actually really like it. This is, guys, we're going to do this going forward. We don't always have a reason or like a bubble to talk about storylines around the league. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to talk, we're going to start with one that is related to the Bruins, and that's Patrice Bergeron. He was working on faceoffs, Kasey, with former BC Eagles and Sharks Will Smith and the Canadians' Alex Newhook. So there he is, Bergie, one of the best ever to do it in the faceoff circle. And that would be pretty friggin' cool if I was those kids.
So friggin' cool. But what I like about it, too, from another perspective, is like Will Smith is showing to be quite the character in the NHL. Mm-hmm. So I feel like getting any sort of extra confidence from a legendary guy such as Bergie, like him taking that back to San Jose is going to be pretty wild. So
it is. And faceoffs is something that, you know, like I said, I get to go to practice and I can just probably ask, but like I've talked to Charlie McAvoy extensively about it. It's like the tiniest things make a difference. And I would love to actually get Bergie again just to go over just the details. But it's crazy that it's just a face-off and it's 5 seconds, 3 seconds, and it's everything.
Pierre-Edouard Bellemare told me back in Tampa that like success starts in the circle, and anyone who follows anything I tweet throughout the season, I say it too much at this point, but it's very true.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much detail you can put into practicing one tiny thing. But it's not that tiny.
Yeah.
Okay, what else did we want to talk about? I think we wanted Mitch Marner.
Yep.
Okay, so guys, I don't know if you've seen this. It was all over the internet or if you follow hockey stuff. But Mitch Marner had a sit-down interview. Now he's with the Vegas Golden Knights, and he kind of opened up and talked about what it was like playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of fan pressure, and it definitely crossed a line. Let's listen to it, then we'll talk about it.
Because my wife's father called me and goes, I just want to let you know we've got people sending us screenshots of a guy posting your address online, saying that if people want to come pay us a visit and say, you know, their goodbyes in a quotation way, here's the address. And it was a little tough, obviously. I mean, we kind of dealt with it for the last 2 years in a way. I mean, the market's very passionate. They love the team. I mean, I know it. I was born and raised there. I've been a part of the Leafs Nation for a long time. But yeah, when your family safety comes into question, especially having a new son, I don't think it's acceptable. You know, having full-time security pretty much at your house for 2 weeks after the playoffs just to make sure no one's coming to the house. You know, also the safety-wise of trying to walk your dog and your child. So it was a little unfortunate, but yeah, it's, you know, we all deal with this stuff. You know, it's just sometimes it happens.
I mean, he's handling that very well in the interview, but a couple things. I also grew up in Leafs Nation. It was never like this. I don't know when it turned. I don't know if sports betting, I don't know. I don't know if people's like money or livelihood is, it's never was like that. The Darcy Tucker, Wendell Clark, Shane Corson eras, Doug Gilmour, so fun, so passionate, so real, but it was never quite like that, number one. Number two, he's like, everyone deals with it. No one should have to deal with BS like that when you're like, come on. I don't think I really need to explain why. But what's crazy, I don't know where I saw it. I don't know if it was on Instagram, but I don't know which account posted it. But some of the comments were still Leafs fans being like, that's why you suck, get out of here. Like,
still digging in on top of it?
Yeah, just gross. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know, you guys haven't, listen, I grew up a Leafs fan, so this is hard for me to say to my friends and family, but like, if you're that, you guys haven't won in a really long time. If you're that person that's just like threatening players or doubling down on someone who fears the safety of their family, like flip off.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, do better just feels like
better.
such a simple way to or even approach it at this point, but like you can't, the fandom can't be that heavy. And maybe it is gambling, because honestly, that's just taking a different toll, and people are so out of control with it, putting their entire lifelines on it, that they sit there and forget that they're talking to somebody who, I hate to be cliche, is a human on the other side, and like putting the entire shoulders of the franchise on Mitch Marner and what happens in the postseason or doesn't happen in the postseason. I'm just glad that he gets this clean slate regardless of what takes place, because at this point it was just too much of like what he was and was not doing versus the team being built around him. In a number of seasons that came and went.
No, totally. And criticism, you know, we know about it. We talk about it, like Twitter. It's hard. It's hard when you're, but at the same time, you put yourself in this, we put ourselves in this position. The hockey players put themselves in this position. They get it. There's going to be criticism. Fine, go on Twitter. But it obviously, we just know that crossed a line, right?
Yeah.
And everyone needs to relax. And maybe if it is a betting thing, maybe stop. Maybe don't put your livelihood on that, on a single kid that you think can make or break.
Stabilize your income.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I'm glad he opened up about that, and hated to see that people still double down, but whatever, that's people, that's the internet. On a lighter note, can we go a little lighter here? I like the Sharks bobblehead story. So you guys all know about the sleepover. Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini, Tyler Toffoli, they had a sleepover. I think it was last season. Yeah. I was on the internet, super cute. This is the best bobblehead I've ever seen. And I would, you know how sometimes you have to wait in line, like you're the first 10,000 people to make it into the rink?
Yeah.
I would wait in line. I would sleep outside to get one of these. I think it's really cute, right?
Yeah.
Really cute. Right, speaking of sleepovers, I have my own sleepover outside the rink, but really cute. And I don't know if it's a collector's item, but I love it.
They should make it a collector's item, because after hearing Toffoli on his wife's podcast for the NHL, I was like, I don't know if Celebrini and Smith can swindle him into another sleepover this upcoming season. So now that it feels like this epic moment that came and went, it needs to be a limited edition.
I forgot, and I probably should have looked this up because I knew this was going to be on the show, but I forgot. Did it happen out of necessity, or were they just like being cute? Like, did someone get locked out of their room?
No, they made this like bet on a whim. I think it was a bet on Celebrini, either like scoring or a number of goals or a number of points in a game. And he ended up nailing it. And the joke was like, okay, we have to have a sleepover, you, me, and Will. And Toffoli got reeled into that. So that's the other part that just makes it super funny. Like, they're going to come out with other outlandish bets. And that's why I was like, Smith is going to be chaos this year. Now he's working with the face-off king. Like, they're going to come up with other fun bets, I feel like.
See, that's wholesome. I like a good wholesome bet, not money involved, not something too embarrassing.
Yeah.
Let's just have a cute little sleepover. Something else that really made us laugh. So Tyson Barrie, and I think we have the clip, but Tyson Barrie announcing his retirement, and then he was asked about it on a show as to why he chose to retire now. And so if we're not going to let you listen to it, but basically he says it was mutual and it was in conjunction with 32 teams, meaning like, yeah, he wasn't getting any offers. He's like, I don't think I wanted to retire. It was a mutual breakup with the other 32 teams. So good, honest answer there. And like, on a serious note, like you said, there's people on the other side. It's not easy. You work your whole life. You're hoping someone gives you a chance. You get your chances. You still feel like you have some in you, but you need the offers. And he wasn't going to get a PTO, so, you know.
Well, that's got to be the hardest part, too. We already see guys, like, struggle to close their chapter with hockey, so to feel like your hand is kind of forced a little bit, like, that part has really got to suck. But him making light of it, I mean, it fits the character that I've heard in regards to this player, but that's a funny way to approach it. It was a mutual breakup at this point.
Mutual breakup, and I just like to give credit where credit is due. It was a interview on Sirius XM, so I want to give those guys credit. Okay, guys, we're going to send it to break. We've got another segment to wrap up the show when we come back. This is Shoot or Pass. Again, blame Kasey. You're not having... No, I'm kidding. We'll be back right after.
I take full responsibility.
We'll be back right after this.
All right, back at it with the Hockey Hub, trying out one of our other new fun segments. As Sophia mentioned, if it fails, well, don't mention my name. We're going to try some shoot or pass. So, Sophia, I'm going to tee you up for the first one here. Shoot if you're all in, pass if it doesn't feel right. Okay. Morgan Geekie will have 20-plus goals this season.
That's a shoot for me, for sure. I know that's a big question mark for around the Bruins, but again, just knowing this man's character and his work ethic and pride, and his skill, like, let's just admit that he's skilled. It wasn't like a fluke that he got there. Is a bit of a surprise, I guess, for some people, and maybe himself included, but shoot for sure. Are you shooting on that, or are you still trying to figure, you don't know him that well, you're trying to figure that out?
I'm going to shoot on it because I was so gravitated towards his play when he did the playoff run with Seattle.
Right.
And that was a surprising season for them as a whole to even get that far. So that's where I first noticed Geekie, and then of course his little brother in Tampa. Like, I'm just a fangirl for the Geekie fan club. Connor McDavid is playing in his final year with the Oilers.
Yeah, I'm shooting on that one as well. I think just seeing what happened with Brad Marchand and players that I've covered with Toronto and then with the Boston Bruins, it's the summer before your contract's up that you figure out your contract for the most part, unless you guys are going separate ways. And that's not a hard, fast rule, but I just think that this is probably, that's a shoot. That's a shoot for me. Would you agree, disagree?
I keep going back and forth on it because he's like, I still want to win with Edmonton, but I'm just like, if things the direction that things are going in, the East could remain dominant for a couple seasons, in my personal opinion. So, like, he's got to really want to stick around. And it feels like things are getting kind of crazy there in terms of people relying on him to make sure that Edmonton brings the victory home. So I kind of want to shoot on it as well.
Okay.
Sticking with the theme of shooting, this one's funny, and I couldn't wait to ask your opinion on it. I'm the kind of person to yell shoot during a hockey game. Is this you or not?
Okay, so now because I work in hockey, like since I've started working, especially when I'm working in the rink, like when I was working in a studio and watching from TV, could have been me. I think like under my breath, I'm giving instructions like go, 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 or like, oh my God, like pass it, he's open, you know, whatever. So like, yes, but I'm definitely not verbally in the stands going like shoot, like not doing that, but I'll be mentally giving instructions. So I can't help it. Is that a shoot? I guess it's a shoot.
I'll give it a pass. If
Okay.
you're not the one screaming it, like
Yeah, I'm
I've
not
heard players be
screaming
like, you know, if you're sitting there screaming it, it's pretty crazy. And then the last one that we have just for today, I would rather be the driver than the passenger during a long road trip.
That is too loaded. Like I drive to Toronto often, so it's around 10 hours, and I love driving. I love the drive. Like it is exhausting, but I love being behind the wheel. I do like being a passenger princess, but I gotta trust the person,
Yes.
and I don't know. It depends who's my passenger. If I don't love my passenger, I'm taking the wheel. If I can trust the driver and I have a good relationship, I can sit back and relax. You?
All right, we're gonna put you at 80%. I am the driver.
The driver.
I'd rather be the driver. It takes me a little too much time to let my guard down and let other people drive me. And I grew up with best friends that were just awful drivers, except for one. So that became my thing when we first started making those road trips up the coast to go watch football games and all that jazz. But we'll see.
I like this. We have more, but we gotta go. But,
I know. Well, at least if
winter's
you
the best
approve.
season we have. That's a shoot for me.
Oh, see, I'm getting there.
That's a
I'm
shoot.
appreciating the season change to the point where, like, I feel like I'll be the person who I like winter and the outdoor rinks around here.
And the outdoor rinks around here, which are few and far between, unfortunately, compared to Canada. But whatever. We're going to continue this, I guess, on Wednesday. Guys, thanks again for joining us. We had Kevin Dupont on. You can rewatch all the episodes on YouTube and Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we'll see you on Wednesday. Have a good one.